Hi, everybody. We are back with episode 3. We're going to go over some birth stories today.
And they're going to be good stories. Let me tell you that.
Mhm.
But I also, for those of you watching, I am in my car. Being a working mom, honestly, this is probably the most peaceful time I have to record, regardless, but you just got to make it work. So, pockets of time, that's what we're doing. So, hello from the car.
I love it.
But yeah, no, I'm really excited for both of us to share this story with you guys because we don't know one another's birth story yet. So as you're listening, we are too. Uh,
Hmm.
so I guess I'll go ahead and get
Yes, please.
started. As we kind of touched upon last episode, I did tell you guys I had a C-section. But let's talk about the birth story because mine was definitely different. I have spoken a little bit and I won't speak too much on it, but my husband had a really bad car accident 2 weeks before I was due for my C-section. So let's just say it is a good thing that baby J stayed inside and I didn't go into preterm labor because that was one of our biggest fears was like while I was in the ICU with him, the stress. And I mean, I was on my feet getting him sips of water if well he couldn't have water at first, but I was just doing a lot that like in the last 2 weeks of your pregnancy you should not be doing. So for anyone listening that felt like, and I say this because this is how I feel it, that they got robbed maybe of like the end of their pregnancy. Um, wow, I feel emotional. Or that it just wasn't what you expected. I get it and I see you and you're not alone because never in my wildest dreams did I imagine my husband not being with me when I was in the hospital with our newborn baby. Um, I know there's definitely moms that I've spoken to who were alone because of COVID. So I know I'm not alone, but I want you to know that you're not alone. I had my mom with me, which is so incredible. And honestly, let me get to like the actual like getting my daughter out of my body. Um,
I'm
so
getting emotional already thinking about this for you.
yeah, no, it's I mean everything is beautiful if you see it that way and we choose to do that with our circumstances, but basically I went in uh I guess I was starting to go into labor with the mucus plug that came out the night before my C-section, which is so crazy. But with a C-section, it's good when it's planned because my hair was freshly blown out. I was able to put some makeup on that morning. Like I was ready. So my mom and I went to the hospital around like 6 a.m. I was scheduled for 9. Um, what I wasn't ready. First of all, I watched zero videos and I read nothing on what C-sections were. I never watched what it looked like. Like I wanted to go in blind and know nothing because then I had no idea what to be afraid of. And I know, Becca, you're probably listening to this, having been in OB, like, oh my God, there is a lot that
Yeah,
you
but
could
it's, you know what?
not.
It's definitely better that you don't see
Yeah,
it
no,
because then
for
you
sure.
won't know.
No, I would have been like harping on all these things that like could go wrong or I wanted to know nothing. I didn't want to know that they were actually cutting through all the layers of my stomach, my muscle,
Right.
my skin. Like
Ugh.
that ever crossed my mind. But they were prepping me. I was getting ready, and the anesthesiologist came in. And this was what I wasn't ready for because she had to have me sign off on paperwork as she explained to me the needle that they were now going to put into my spine. And I was
Mhm.
like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I was like, what? And she
Mhm.
like showed me the length and like really like got pretty clear. I guess it's her job. She has to. And then I just signed these papers and she left, and I was just sitting there like, what? So that was really scary. So if you don't know about that and you get scared, it's okay. Same. Um, but yes, during, so I went in, and when they do, I guess that was for the spinal tap, which is what makes you go numb, so they can do the surgery, which you are awake for. Uh, they did it, and honestly, the nurse that I had with me literally coddled me like she was my own mother. Like I was leaning into her chest. It really was totally fine. Um, and I slowly lost feeling of my legs, and they, rolled me onto the OR table, and I feel like I'm like going back there. I've never spoken about my birth story. Like this is the first
Really?
time I'm ever saying it out loud.
No way. You're
So
telling me that other people haven't asked you like this? This is
I haven't been
crazy.
able to talk about it.
Oh, I feel so blessed to be here. I'm
Like I feel
listening
like
very
I'm like
intently.
shaking as I'm talking about this because this is so crazy. Like this is actually like really like this is a big moment for me because it's been really hard. But so yeah, like I it felt like I was definitely with it now the whole time, but like things were moving weird around me. Like I
No.
was out of it, but they would talk to me. The anesthesiologist was actually like by my head the whole time. Um and I remember like she was like, it's normal if you feel like you're gonna throw up, like, and I remember like feeling like I was nauseous, but like I was totally fine. But then I was getting like anxious that I was gonna throw up because that's a fear of mine that I was like trying to tell her, but I couldn't. But she realized, and they just like put something next to your face. But I never actually got sick. Um, what did happen was there was a resident. I don't know.
Yeah.
My OB was literally like the chillest male ever, which first time I switched when I got pregnant to a new OB. I'm like ranting, guys. This is very unorganized in my brain, but bear with me. Um, but like he was, as I'm like laying there cut open, he was talking about like he just picked up some cigars that he was gonna smoke this weekend, and I'm like, what's happening? Like,
But for some people, that would help make them feel more calm because it's like we're having a regular conversation.
oh yeah, like no, not even with me. He was talking to like all of them behind the curtain, and I was just listening to all this. Like they're inside of me right now, and like this is weird. But the resident, I all of a sudden I heard him go, you okay?" And there was no answer, and I heard him say it like something, and then people got a little frantic, and they're like, "Can someone get a chair? Like she's green, she's white, like she needs to sit down. We need to remove her." So she
Your
was
mom.
going down. So now her hands are in me, and he's like, "Remove." Like so.
Wait, the resident? You were telling me the resident was gonna pass out?
Yeah, like she was like
Yeah,
I
like
don't.
a learning. They learn there.
Yeah,
That's
like this wasn't her first rodeo, I guess, but yep, I don't know what it looked like in me, the blood, whatever, but she went down and she fainted, and they had to take her out of the room. And all the while I'm still like laying here cut open, but I just remember like then I feel like things got a little weird, but I remember them being like, "All right, like, are you ready to meet your daughter?" And I was like, "Okay." Like, and they just lifted her up and brought her around to me and put her on my chest. And oh, God, it literally, that is the moment that your world changes for the rest of your life.
oh
And
my
like,
gosh.
I couldn't hold her yet, but I remember
You
everything.
got to have her right there though.
Oh my God, yeah. And like, it was it was just crazy, and then they took her over to right, like not far. I could still see, like by laying and turning my head, I saw them weighing her and cleaning her off a little bit, and then they brought her over to me. My mom held her, and then they took her, and my mom went, and they brought me into recovery. Like they closed me up, took all like the
Yeah.
I heard them counting, I guess, the sponges that they were taking out of me, and I was like, "This is so strange." But then they brought her over to me, and they put her on. I took my gown aside, they threw her on my chest, and I was a mom, like
Wow.
like that, and
That's crazy.
like it was so crazy, and it's probably so different because like when you're pushing, like there was nothing leading up to the moment where now my daughter's just like suddenly, like physically for me, I didn't do much because I felt nothing, and like they just placed her on me, and like the my life changed, and I just it's still so crazy to me because like I felt like I knew her my whole life. Like I felt that instant love, and I've heard so many people talk of different experiences with this, but like it was like a second, and the love that I felt is something I can't even describe. And I mean, it's only grown every day since, but like there was no need, like the foundation was there right off the bat, and like she became my whole world. And like
Mhm.
I know like that feeling, but it's just like I can't explain it to someone who's never become a mom yet, and like no words could do justice for how powerful and incredible and magical it is. And yeah, but then the crazy thing is once they move you to mother baby, they just leave you. And I
Yeah.
was like, thank gosh, my mom was staying with me and she
Yeah.
knew, because like I didn't even know how to change a diaper at this point. And also
Right.
I was just in surgery. So like
Major surgery.
she really
Major.
she carried us because she knew she's been a mom before, she raised me. So like the tar poops I didn't do much of because that was she was doing that the first like day or two, but it's just so wild. And I think part of the superpower of what I've grown into from Justin's accident to this point was like the strength. And I remember they were like, all right, we're going to have to like move you onto the table. Like, you probably still can't feel your legs. And I like was like, no, I'm good. And they were like, no, you're not. And I was like, look, watch. And I like did, where you do like butt raises. And I like
Yeah.
showed them, and they were like, you shouldn't be able to do that yet. And I was like, I'm good.
The
So I like,
adrenaline was just pushing all of the pain meds right out of you.
yeah. So they let me like scoot onto the table, and I was like standing in no time. I was like, can I go to the bathroom? And they were like, you're really not supposed to like get up and walk yet. And I was like, I'm okay. Like, I really just want to walk. And so they let me, obviously, while still doing things safely and monitoring
Yeah.
me. But yeah, I mean, Jules came in no time and healthy. She was 6 pounds, 13 ounces. Although she did go down to like she lost 10% of her,
Yeah.
which
Same.
I think is normal from what I'm hearing.
It is. 10% is the normal. That's what they don't want to go above.
Right. So, but and I mean, maybe I'll have you share, and depending on time, or we can talk about it next episode. The I am still a breastfeeding nursing mama, but I never really wanted to be. I
Hmm.
never wanted to breastfeed.
Hmm.
Um, and I felt pressured in the
Yes.
hospital to do that. So maybe we'll talk about that next time
Yeah.
because there's a lot that went into that for me.
A
So,
lot of pressure for that. Absolutely. You
yeah,
didn't
that
feel
was
anything though? Like when they cut you open, you didn't feel that?
no, I literally feel like I was just on a cloud. Like I guess it's such an out of body experience because they're cutting into you. You know that you feel a little bit of pressure. You know what's happening, but like it
Right.
feels like nothing's happening at the same time. and then suddenly the child that just grew inside of you for 9 months, that you're still like, this is the most magical thing and miraculous thing that can happen with like the female body. They're just like sitting on you, and you're like, how did I get here? Like,
Yeah, that's crazy.
crazy is
Oh
an
oh
understatement.
my gosh. No, seriously. Like this isn't that's insane. Like the whole story, if you just think about it together. You
Yeah.
obviously just consolidated it into like 10 minutes, but like that's
And it,
wild. Like they can make a full movie out of what you just told me.
yeah, and listen, I mean, I'll be real with you guys. There's bits and pieces that I'm not sharing because I
Yeah, that's
can't.
okay.
But it's we, from the date of my husband's accident until today, we could make an incredible book and movie, because it is something that you read about, and because we now are on the other side of it. um yeah, yeah, I don't have other words, but it's crazy.
Insane. I feel like we actually had the absolute polar opposite experiences. I really genuinely do because I was going in thinking I was having a C-section. I had done the research. I worked there. I know exactly. I've watched the YouTube videos. I've watched the simulations. Like
Oh. I
I
still
was
don't know
ready.
what they did to me, just so you know.
Don't even
Like,
I won't even tell you. I won't
good.
even tell you. But I was ready. I was prepared. I said, "Yep, that's what I want. I wanted a C-section. Good to go." So the last episode we ended with my water broke and I head to the hospital. So I'm there, and as soon as I get there, the doctors that I work with are all there and everyone's texting me and my husband's with me and they say, "Why don't you just go with your original plan and go do labor, as much as you can like vaginal delivery and at your 24-hour mark, if it's just not progressing the way you want, then we'll do a C-section." And I said, "Okay, fine. So we're going to do this vaginal delivery thing for 24 hours." But mind you, I was in total C-section mode. I was ready. I had like the C-section postpartum pack like in my bag. Like I was like, this is what we're doing. And I'll save you the big story, but essentially I was on 20 Pitocin, which is the max amount. They had you on that basically the whole time. Um, and I was just walking up and down, like on full Pitocin. They're trying to induce me. And I'm walking around the hospital, not sleeping, just trying to get this baby out. So at like the 20th hour, probably, I'm like, okay, like 4 more hours of this, and then they're going to get this baby out. They go,
Which, like, that's a long time.
it is a long time, but honestly, Zach was so great. He had the GoPro, so he was recording the whole journey. And like, I was just
Fine.
excited. I wanted to not be pregnant anymore. That's what I wanted. So I was excited. I was in very good spirits. And actually, because of that, we posted our GoPro footage on TikTok and it ended up doing in the millions of views. Like, people were like, wait, this is amazing because it just looks like we had this like fairy tale experience because I'm walking around, I'm on like the
You're
max
like,
dose of
dot, dot,
Pitocin.
dot.
Yeah, there's like no epidural yet, but it looks like I'm just having a good time. Like I have a very high pain tolerance, so I was fine. I really was. I was like, oh, maybe a cramp here or there, like whatever. So whatever, hour 23 and a half. I'm like, they're coming in to check me soon because I want this C-section. I'm ready. So I texted the doctor that I work with because she wasn't in the hospital. She wasn't on call. And I texted her. She was the one that I wanted to do my C-section. So I texted her. I said, "Can you come in now and C-section me? I'm 30 minutes away from my 24-hour mark." And she said, "Sure, I'll come over." So like 10 minutes later, whatever, she comes into the room and she's like, "I have to just go check on another patient and then I'll come in and check you and we'll see where you're at." I'm like, "Okay, great." Thinking like it hasn't progressed. Like they just gave me the epidural. So I'm like numb, legs down. And the epidural's fine if you're doing C-section or vaginal because it's like the same, it's the spinal, it's the same deal. So I was like sitting there, legs numb. I'm like thinking they're gonna have to push me onto a gurney and get me into the OR, right? So she comes back and she goes, "All right, like let me check you. It's just me and Zach in the room." And she checks me and she's like, "Oh, Okay, and she, like, stands up and, like, runs out and rolls back in a table and starts putting on her gloves and stuff. She's like, "The baby's head is right here." And I was like,
Stop.
"No, it's not." I was like, "No, it's not. We're going in for a C-section." She was like, "Nope." She's like, "You don't feel anything?" I'm like, "No, like, I feel nothing." Like, the epidural was strong, strong.
Clearly.
So I'm like, "Okay, like, I guess we're doing this." So it's just the 3 of us, my husband and the doctor in the room, and I'm like, "What do I don't even know what to do." She's like, "You just, like, take a deep breath and push when you feel." I'm like, "Feel what?" She's like, "When you feel like you have to push." I'm like, "I don't feel anything." So she's like, "Okay, well, then just, like, try pushing and see what happens." I was like so I, like, push as if I'm going to the bathroom, and I'm like, "Am I doing it?" And she's like, "Yeah, that's it." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Never watched a I know nothing about vaginal deliveries. I
That
didn't watch
is
any no
wild.
breathing classes, no birthing classes. I don't know shit because I'm
Clearly,
thinking
you were good. You didn't feel a thing.
I was thinking that I had to like learn like Lamaze and like, learn how to push a baby out. I was not prepared for this. So the nurse comes in like after the first push, and like mind you, when I push, it's not like the movies. I'm not making a single peep. Like we're like having a conversation at like normal level. I'm like, did I do that? She's like, yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, you know what, Zach, why don't you turn on some music? So he plays the song Vienna by Billy Joel. I'm like, oh, so nice. Like it's like we're having like jazz. Like it's so nice. We're having a good time. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll push again. I don't feel like I need to push. I'm just like, I just want this baby out. So we go through like 20 minutes of that, and then she's like, if you don't get this baby out in 10 minutes, you're at the point where we have to take your blood sugar and give you insulin again.
Mm.
And that was like, no. I'm like, we're not doing that. We're getting this baby
Put the
out.
sleeves up.
So, yep, I'm like, no way. So I'm like, Zach, I'm like ready. So I get, I'm like really getting into position, and my legs are, so just picture this, no clothes on. I'm in a bathrobe, like this nice robe that I got. It's not the hospital robe. It's like a nice robe. And I'm wearing it. It's so pretty. And just the whole bottom of it is just like pulled up. Like my boobies are covered like barely, but the whole bottom of it is out. My belly's out like, and I'm stark naked with my legs spread.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I hear a little knock at the door, and someone just walks in. I'm thinking, okay, it could be like anesthesia, like you're in the hospital, whatever. No, no, it's my uncle in regular civilian clothing. Now, mind you, my uncle is an OBGYN. I have never seen him as a patient because he's my uncle.
Right. You're
So he
like,
walks in, I see his face, and I'm like, well, he definitely saw what I didn't want him to see. But I'm like, you know what? He's a professional. So I'm like, oh, hello, uncle. Like, so he comes in, whatever, and he stands next to Zach, and Zach's not allowed to look. I'm pushing. He's up only. That's the rule. Zach is gonna
and he
pass out.
never did.
Never. He's gonna pass out. He would pass out immediately. He doesn't like blood. When I used to give myself insulin, he'd start turning pale and sit down. He can't do it. So I'm like, stay up here, stay up here. So I'm like pushing. At the same time, I'm like, you good? To Zach. Like, I'm like, you okay? Because I can see that he's like trying his best. So my uncle's standing next to him, holding his shoulder in one hand, and then every so often he presses my epidural button to give me more epidural. But while I'm pushing this baby out, my uncle is with his phone like this, taking pictures all around. He goes, I'm going to airdrop these to you. I'm like, you know what? Whatever. I need to get this baby out. So I'm like,
Full
Zach, put
on
on
crotch pics.
go everything. Everything. He's like, there's the baby. I'm like, God help me.
Wait, that's
So
crazy that you have that.
I wish I didn't. And in fact, when he
Yeah,
airdropped them to me, I like saved them and never looked at them again
that's
until like months later.
that's insane.
They're crazy. So I'm like, we're getting this baby out. Zach put on Freebird. That's what I wanted to push her out to. It's like my favorite song ever, specifically the guitar solo. So
Okay,
I'm like, if this starts playing, I know when it's building up to the guitar solo. So I'll do one big push and she'll be out. So I'm like we're listening to Freebird. Zach decides he's gonna turn the music up because it helps me, I guess. So I'm like, okay.
you're
So
just
I'm
like
sitting there, I'm like, yep, I'm like, I'm gonna just do this now. So I just push one more time and the guitar solo starts. And the second that guitar solo starts, the baby comes out. And they're like, there she is. And I was like, there she is. And I had told them, do not put that baby on me. Do not put that baby on me because this is a nice robe. And also, I'm a germaphobe and I know it came from myself. I just don't want it on me.
You're so funny.
I know that sounds really cold, but that's just how I am. So when you talk about that magical experience when you first saw, no, I did not have that. So what do? They put the baby on my nice robe. So I have a
Oh,
picture of me like this. The baby's on my chest, and I'm like this. There was no magical moment. There was no connection. Like there was nothing. There was literally nothing. I was like, okay, that's a baby. Take it away and clean it up for me. I didn't I was a little disconnected. So then they take the baby over, they're weighing her, and then suddenly the NICU team rushes in, and then the respiratory team rushes in, and then these other people rush in. I'm hemorrhaging. I tore and I'm hemorrhaging. So my doctor's trying to stitch me while she's trying to control the bleeding. Zach's over in the corner about to pass out. My uncle's literally holding his shoulders while they like take the baby away. They're taking the baby to the NICU. And I'm like, Zach, why don't you go with the baby? He's gonna pass out. So I'm like, why don't you go with the baby? So my uncle and Zach go with the baby. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my doctor now. It's just me and her and the nurse. And I said, did I poop? She goes, no. I said, are you lying to me? She goes, no, I would be honest. You did not.
yeah,
I was like,
because I
heck
think
yeah.
that's like a pretty normal thing, and they're so
It
good at
is.
sweeping it up.
Yes. I was like, well, now that nobody's here, like, tell me.
Yeah.
She's like, no, you didn't. You didn't. I said, did I tear? She goes, yeah, a little. I said, okay, well, what's going on now? Because every time she would go like this to my hoochie area and toss the little gauze over her shoulder into this little bucket that was on the table, and it would
Right.
splash. And it splashed on the wall. That was a lot of blood. So I said, so what's happening now? I was like, how bad did I tear? Me thinking like full tear. And she goes, no, you're just bleeding a little. I said, bleeding a little. That's a lot. She goes, no worries, we'll control it. So like the nurse and whatever. 5 minutes later, I am sewn up, stopped bleeding, and I'm sitting there in the mess because they didn't lift me yet to take the mess away from like
Right.
under me, like the
Right.
extra stuff. So I'm sitting there by myself. 5 minutes after I gave birth. And I'm just sitting there like, I want
Was
my mom.
music still playing?
No, no, I made Zach turn it off when he left. But
So
while
now
the
it's just
whole
dead silent.
Well, yeah, dead silent. But while the team was there and I was bleeding and everything was going on, the Freebird guitar solo was playing at max volume. It was like I couldn't even hear my own thoughts. So then suddenly I'm alone and nobody's in the room with me, and I'm like, where am I? I'm like, I want
I
my
was just
mom.
gonna say, yeah.
So I called my mom and I was like, I had told everybody to stay away from the hospital
Okay.
because I wanted a C-section, to be away, to be recovering on my own, have the baby. Like, I told everyone to stay away. So I call my mom. And I'm like, Mom. She's like, oh my God, did you have the baby? I was like, yeah. Can you come here? I said, can you come? Can you come bring me lunch? She was like, sure. Is everything okay? I said, yep, everything's fine. The baby's with Zach in the NICU.
Everything's fine.
I said, but I want something. Can you come and get me? She goes, I'm right outside. And so they like fast passed her up, whatever. She comes right to my room. She has sushi, cookies, and we
Oh,
just sat together. And I just told her what happened, and we just sat and ate lunch. And
were you not cleaned up at this point?
oh no, the room was a disaster. My mom, like when she walked in, she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Why?" And she's like, "There's blood everywhere." And I was like, "Oh." Because I
That
can't see, like I'm on the table, I can't see
oh,
what's at the foot of the bed. Like there's a puddle of blood. Like, sorry, they didn't clean it up yet. They were, working on it. But I wanted my mom there now. So
I get
it was
that.
it was wild. But yes, no, I did not have that magical moment. In fact, I didn't get to.
Was Vienna okay?
Yeah, she was just they took her for precaution. She was just
Okay.
having like a little trouble breathing. Like she no, she was breathing fine.
Okay.
But she looked like she was working too hard to breathe. So they were
Okay.
like, we're gonna take her to the NICU because I was gestational diabetic, so it could have had to do with that. Like, so they're
Okay.
gonna go check her sugars. It was really precautionary, but better them to take care of her than me. Like you said, I never changed a diaper. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, I'm not pregnant anymore. Woo! Like that's all I could think about. It took a little bit, I got to hold her for the first time. So I gave birth at like 11. in
Okay.
the morning at like 12 at night. So like 12 hours later, um, Zach wheelchaired me down to the NICU and I got to hold her.
Okay.
But yeah, I needed to get a blood transfusion and I didn't want one, but they gave me one anyway because I went to shower because I thought I could do okay, like when my legs came back. And it was rough. Showering was scary because I was like in the shower and all of a sudden, like you'd see stars, and your head kind of
Uh,
hurts a little.
with the heat as well, that
Yeah.
that doesn't help.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So like there's a chair in the shower and I was like I don't need that. And I'm showering and all of a sudden like starry vision and like my head hurts and I'm like, "Oh fuck." I was like, I'm going to pass out." I was like, "This is what happens when people pass out." I said, "I'm just going to sit in this chair for a second." So I sit in the chair and I like, well, since I'm sitting in the chair, let me shave my legs. I kid you not. I
Are
kid you
you
not.
for real?
I swear to God. I wish I was lying. I really do. I wish I was lying. But I shaved my legs. So I was sitting in the chair and shaving my legs. And then I got out of the
Or
shower, rested in
just
bed
when
for a
I go.
second. Yeah, I don't know. I rested in bed for a second and then I got up and blew out my hair with my Shark hair dryer. I don't know what's wrong with me. I was just ready.
Coping
Like I was like
mechanisms.
ready. I was ready to go. I was like, all right, now I'm ready for the baby. Let's go. Let's go home.
Wow.
But yeah, so they gave me a blood transfusion. Everything was crazy, and then there was just like a tiny after part. So they finally released me from the hospital on Friday. I gave birth on Wednesday. They released me on Friday. They said the baby will be ready to leave the NICU in like 2 hours. Do you want to stay or do you want to go home? Like I said, I was a little disconnected. So I was like, I want to go home and clean my house. So I go home, we clean the house up a little bit more, like just like put away the stuff that comes from the hospital, like the diapers and whatnot. And I'm like just setting everything ready. And then literally Zach showered. I showered at home because I like to shower every day. Showered at home and then we went and picked her up and we had her Friday night and we're to follow up with the pediatrician on Saturday morning just to check because she was in the NICU, whatever. And we get to the doctor Saturday morning, and the doctor was, I'll never see her again. She shamed me for not breastfeeding. Mind you, my milk had not come in yet. I was trying to get colostrum, like doing my best. She shamed me for not feeding the baby 24 ounces in 24 hours, which is too much for a newborn baby. But also, I did not have the baby. The baby was in the NICU.
Right.
So she was nasty. We did not like her, but I'm a new mom. My ankles are like this big. I'm like, whatever. So she's like, you have to go get blood work because the baby's jaundice, definitely. So go back to the hospital today, Saturday morning, and get blood work. So we go to the hospital, get the blood work. It was horrible. I'm sweating. I'm hot. My ankles are fat. I'm with the baby. They're like, they take it from their heels. So they took blood. Baby's screaming, whatever. They took the blood. I go back home. I get a call an hour later. It's the doctor that I saw. She goes, unfortunately, the bilirubin levels are high and she needs to go to the hospital, but don't worry, they'll be ready for her. They'll take her right up. And I said, okay. So we go back to the hospital, waited in the waiting room for 4 hours in the emergency department
With a newborn.
with a newborn. So I'm like dying. Like there's actually a picture of me. I don't even know who that person is. I'm like actually in a very like bad place. My ankles are fat, my eyes are closed, like my face is swollen. Like I was not doing well. And finally I went up to the desk and I was so calm and I was like, look, I was like, if someone doesn't take me up to a room with this 3-day-old baby that I'm now sitting in the emergency department with in March when people are like having the flu and coughing everywhere, then you're going to have to let me go. And so they threatened me with CPS. If I took her home, they would call CPS. I swear to you. So I'm like, what? I said, so take me up to a room then before I start losing it. So literally some nice guy took us up to a room. We waited more time. They were going to give us like a bilirubin light so that like they could fix her jaundice, which I find out later you can get for at home. Whatever. So she's in the hospital and I'm like, we're waiting. I'm dying. I brought I didn't think we are going to be there long. I brought no pads, no peri bottle, like nothing. You know
Of
what's
course.
going on down there. I have to take care of shit down there.
Yeah.
I have nothing. I came with no water, no food, nothing,
You
because I
were
didn't
told
think
you were gonna be brought right up.
right. I didn't think we were going to be there long. And if I needed to go home, like I could just drive home really quick and Zach was there. Like, but no, it was like this whole thing. Eventually, at like 6 o'clock that night, we're still at the hospital and they say, oh no, the baby has to stay overnight. Nobody told you that? The fuck? I'm like, what is going on here? So I called my mom. I said, Mom, I need you to come stay up all night and sit in this hospital room while this baby sits under this stupid fucking light. So she's like, no problem. You go home, get some rest. Like, look at you. You guys are a fucking mess. So we go home. We're gonna sleep. Zach sleeps the whole night on the couch. Full night. I don't know. He slept on the couch. What did I do the whole night? I'm not even kidding you. I did my nails, I showered, I cleaned the house, I did some laundry. This is just what I do to like cope with my anxieties. And then at 6 o'clock in the morning, after not sleeping one wink, I wake Zach up and said, let's go get the baby. So we went and got her. They let us go, and I've never gone back to that pediatrician or that hospital ever again. And she's doing fine. That's my birth story. It's a little long, but it's a week long, but
It is a week long. Wow.
yeah,
Oh. I feel like I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm just trying to gather them because that is a
I know.
lot.
It was a lot. But you know what? Like the whole time we really were in good spirits. It's just that looking back at it, I was like, I mean, how many other people do you think? I mean, I don't know about you or like people listening, but how many times do you think like a new mom, just because maybe they don't know any better or they're feeling so icky postpartum right away that they don't advocate for themselves? Like that's what I felt like. I literally felt like I was just being dragged along.
Right.
Like not the actual birth part, but like the pediatrician and then back to the hospital. Like I wasn't we weren't in Kansas anymore, we weren't with my doctors that work in labor and delivery. I was on a different unit. I couldn't
Exactly.
call and be like, hey, this, that. So I feel
Yeah.
like I was definitely taken advantage of because I couldn't really speak up for myself. And Zach didn't know what to do. He was so great though, I have to say. He helped me so much. When that baby did come home, he I slept every day for 4 weeks, every night, full night sleep for 4 weeks while he was on paternity.
Incredible.
Insane. Very good. Yeah, I think everyone was very scared of how depressed I was like during pregnancy, that they were scared of postpartum depression. So they were like, let her just sleep it off.
Yeah.
And it worked.
I was just gonna say, did it work?
I honestly think it did. If someone were to ask me, did you have postpartum depression? I'd probably say no. Because honestly, Carly, I just couldn't wait. Obviously, from the story, you could tell. I just had like a little detachment from the baby at first, not because of postpartum depression, just because I never wanted to be pregnant. And I was just always looking forward to not being pregnant again. Now, I have to also include, I freaking love that girl with all my soul, but it didn't happen for me like that magical moment. And I
Which is
do
okay.
wish it did. I do. But I think a lot of people don't know that that's also normal, that it
Right.
doesn't just happen like that.
Yeah, well, I no, I agree, and I didn't know that until I really started talking to other moms. But I felt like other moms who felt what you felt were almost shameful that they didn't
Yes,
have that instant connection, and you shouldn't be because it's normal.
I know.
And I'm proud of you for sharing that because there's going to be somebody listening that gets that sense of relief because you also are sharing this. Like, I
Yeah,
promise you that. So I'm
yeah.
proud of you. But
Thank you.
it's, yeah, it's hard. And I feel like you felt the almost the prepartum depression in a way versus like
Yeah,
postpartum.
100%. Listen, postpartum, as soon as they let me out the hospital, like the sun was shining, I was like, woo, like, let's go. I was stoked, ready to
Yeah.
go. We
Yeah.
actually went to, so I gave birth March 20th. We went to a surprise party April 6th. So I had a 2 week old. I went to that surprise party in jeans and a crop top. No, not to say that I should have,
Right.
but I did because I was like, don't care. I don't have this belly anymore. I just have my regular belly. And I was like, look at that
Exactly.
tiny belly.
It's so wild.
It
Yeah,
is.
no. I feel like it's just truly such a whirlwind. Like that entire
Yeah.
experience, and everyone's is so different, which is why
Oh,
it's so
different.
crazy. Like from start to finish, like there is no one who can physically be in the exact same position you were for that entire experience. Like
No
this, it's just
way.
not possible.
Yeah, and it's so good to hear other people's birth stories too, because it's I literally teared up when you were saying about how when they put Juliana on your chest, out how you felt that moment. Like I literally teared up because like one, like I wish I had that, but two, like that is such a beautiful feeling. I can only imagine. I mean, it's just like, I love that. I
What
just
I
love
can
that.
tell you is I have best friends. I have one of my very, very, very close best friends who their first child didn't experience it. And then for their second child they did. So there's still hope. It's just I don't think you can plan it. It just happens.
Yeah. It's so true. I
Um
mean, I love her now, but it definitely took me time. Like
yeah.
I'll be honest, 4 weeks old, do you love her? I'd be like, of course I
Yeah.
do, but I'm not like,
Yeah.
obsessed. Now I am, but it wasn't instant ever. It was never an instant moment for me.
And
It's
that is
crazy.
normal.
It
I
is, but I didn't know that because nobody talks about it. But that's why it's
right.
good to hear
That's
from
why
you
we're
too.
talking about it.
Right.
Um, the other thing I will add is, which I probably didn't talk about it because it's hard. Um, Social media has created in my brain this idea that when I left the hospital, I was going to take that cutesy little video of my husband carrying out my baby doing the hot dad walk. And my husband couldn't walk, my husband wasn't there. So I am to this day, I see people posting like leaving the hospital, and it's so hard because I feel so happy for them. I really, really do. It has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with me and my situation. But that's something that I don't know. I haven't been able to get past, as silly as it is. Like,
It's not silly because that's like almost like an iconic moment of like a new dad.
right.
Like, but I will tell you, I did get to watch Zach carry, not out of the hospital, but carry the carrier into our apartment. And the hot dad walk has nothing on the holding the baby and them laughing at each other. I'm telling you that made my heart grow 10 sizes.
I just
10
got
sizes.
chills. Yeah, that's true. Thank you for
It's so
saying
true.
that.
Of course. No, it's the truth. It's the truth. That
Yeah.
hot dad walk, like those carriers are so awkward to carry. And my husband's not that tall, so like holding it, like it didn't look that hot.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was really the hot dad walk. I just liked better when he was like holding the baby and I was sleeping and I'm like, that's good.
Yeah.
You
They'll
know?
have more hot dad moments, like their first daddy daughter
Mhm.
dance.
Oh, please. There'll be so many. Ugh, there'll be so many. You're
Oh,
right.
there's so much to look forward to, that these are just moments in time that they they were the way that they were, and they're beautiful in their own special way. Like, again, I started this by saying, like, you have to just see the beauty in it. Like, it is beautiful even if it's not what you expected.
Right.
And both of our stories are not, we're not glorifying what our birth story was.
No, either way, we're like almost laughing through it. Like it's like a
Yeah.
form of therapy to share it. Because
Right.
it's so
Right.
different too, which is so funny that you and I like started this together and we have literally polar
I'm
opposite
so
stories.
happy because I'm
Me
happy
too.
that we can bring in everybody, like
Yeah.
we get the instant connection, we get the non-instant connection, we get
Right.
the down there tear or the below the belly
A
button
little
tear. Like, we
right.
got it. We got you. So I feel like this was exactly what we needed to talk about
I
today.
agree.
I'm
I couldn't agree more. It was perfect.
so happy. And I don't know, I feel like this is really so fun to do with you and to get to know
Same.
you. And I'm like ready to like interact with our audience too.
Me
Like, I want to
too.
hear can they comment on I want people to share.
Yeah,
Tell me
they
your
can
birth story.
comment, leave comments. We're gonna probably make an Instagram or something for this. We want to hear your birth
We're
stories.
moms
We want
though,
to hear
so
it
we have
all.
to find the time. Just give us a little bit.
We'll figure it out. Don't worry, but comment on the podcast for now. That I
Yeah.
know you can do.
Well, this was amazing.
Yes.
I know we have more juicy stuff coming, so be ready, guys. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching if you did. We're just so happy to be here and to share our stories with you guys. So that's it.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. We'll see you
Talk
next
to you.
episode.
Bye.